It's sometimes said that in a movie, a city can be a character in its own right. Los Angeles is the example that comes up most often. But in the hands of a filmmaker like David Lynch, that means that just like all his other characters, the city can be fragmented into a million different aspects and personalities and sides of itself. This is a Drafthouse Diary from Monday, January 9th, when I went to the Alamo Drafthouse Aspen Grove to see David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. This is a David Lynch movie I had not seen before. Were a few of those kind of 90s era David Lynch movies, post Twin Peaks, that I kind of missed. And I was glad to have an opportunity to see this and an opportunity to see it in a movie theater on a big screen. Now, all through January, the Alamo has been showing movies and about movie making and about Hollywood. No doubt in response to the spate of movies that have just been released on those themes, like Babylon and The Fabelmans and even Empire of Light. And it makes sense to include Mulholland Drive because Mulholland Drive is David Lynch's Hollywood movie. But it's also a movie that still deals with David Lynch's perennial themes. It's about identity and the dreamlike nature of reality and the way in which each of us is many different people relative to the ways in which we relate to the others around us and to our circumstances and to the place in which we find ourselves. On the surface, Mulholland Drive is the story of Betty, the quintessential, wide-eyed, innocent girl newly arrived in Hollywood with dreams of becoming an actress and a movie star, played with the appropriate level of unreality by Naomi Watts. It's also the story of Rita, an amnesiac whose path crosses with Betty's, leading the two of them to investigate Rita's past and other aspects of the world that she apparently inhabited. It's also the story of a movie director, played by Justin Theroux, whose control over his own movie is at the mercy of criminals and money men. And this is, I imagine, a commentary on Hollywood, but it also gives us a very specific kind of conflict into which to thrust this director. Lynch has a knack for leading us through the process of a story into this dreamlike state, but the dreamlike state is still sufficiently anchored to the real world around the characters that it makes it even extra disorienting. And by the time we realize what kind of movie we're in, how weird this is, it's too late. We've been drawn in too deep and we have to ride it out. And across many of David Lynch's movies, you see characters who exist in identities that are real and only exist based upon their relationships with others. You see that in Twin Peaks, you see that in Wild at Heart, you see that in so many of his movies. You absolutely see that in Blue Velvet. And in Mulholland Drive, I think that is especially stark. It's almost as if Lynch wants us to see the characters reacting in certain ways, see their responses of a certain type, and therefore he throws them into situations or he presents them with strange characters who are going to elicit that reaction that he wants us to see. And then he figures out how to work that into a story. So, for example, he wants us to see Betty reacting to the world not being what she expects, so we see this bizarre nightclub act when she goes out investigating with Rita. Or he wants us to see the director respond to this increasing loss of control that he has over his own life and his own work. So he confronts the director with this bizarre, sinister, yet very polite and soft-spoken cowboy, known only as the Cowboy, who essentially presents as just this is the way the world is, certain low-key threats to the director and his movie and his livelihood. And we then get to see the characters respond to these bizarre inputs. But we also see the world become weirder because it has to be weird in order to accommodate the strange things that we've been seeing. I've long been a fan of David Lynch. And as I say, this is one of those 90 movies that I somehow missed. I enjoyed it very much. I enjoy almost any David Lynch movie. And this was a particularly compelling experience because I was already in the mood to think about movies and movie making, thanks to a lot of the other movies I've seen recently. That means I can recommend it. as long as you have some interest or at least tolerance for the weird frame of mind and the weird kind of movies that David Lynch delivers. So let's talk about other aspects of this visit to the Alamo. The pre-show. The pre-show, maybe it was just set up for any David Lynch movie they were screening, but I think it was specific to Mulholland Drive because it included like a trailer for Sunset Boulevard, some things that were meta movies about movie making. But it also included some interview segments with David Lynch, some parodies of David Lynch and David Lynch movies. So overall, it was a fun pre-show and got me in the mood to watch this movie. Now, the food at the Alamo, this was interesting because they've recently brought back, or for a while, they brought back some special menu items, things that had been on special menus over the past year or so, and they brought them back in a kind of for your consideration award season special menu. And this included the Glazed and Infused burger. I believe this was originally on the menu in connection with the Bob's Burger movie. In addition to lettuce and tomato, it has bacon and bourbon glazed caramelized onion. I like bourbon. I tend not to like too many things that are bourbon flavored, but this was just right. There was just a little bit of bourbon flavor added to the caramelization with these onions. It was one of the best burgers I've had at the Alamo. I don't know if it's still there, but if it comes back, I'll try it again. The rest of the visit was perfectly fine. The screening was very crowded. There weren't too many seats left when I decided to go see this. But even though it was a crowded auditorium, the servers were very efficient, always on top of things. All in all, a terrific visit to the Alamo. I'm glad I was able to share it with you. If you found this interesting or useful, please consider clicking like. And if you want to see more Drafthouse Diaries, please click subscribe. But most important, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for joining me. I will be back with more. Until then, enjoy your movies, and when you do, stay till the end of the credits.